Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke. How you doing? Just doing a do-it-yourself learn lesson on a video for working with another tool when you're going to fix it yourself kind of mindset. The first several videos I'm doing are just introducing people to the tools that we use. May they be a screwdriver, hammer, and so on and so on. Even sophisticated things such as classifications of different kinds of flashlights, like they have the ability of zooming in and zooming out and making adjustments and so on. The key thing is understand the tools you have. That's what enables you to know the right tool and how it works. So today we're going to cover a tool specifically misunderstood and most of the time misused, and that is going to be basically the common hammer. Now, when you say common hammer, you have to understand there is no such thing as a common hammer. There are many kinds of hammers that exist, such as masonry hammers and small sledgehammers and claw hammers and so on. That's not the only thing that is out there. We also have very specialized hammers, such as tack hammers, impact hammers that have powder inside them to help to deaden the effect of striking something. We have what we call special metals and plastic strike hammers. So let's talk to all of these. So the key thing that most people make the mistake of, especially with drywall or wood, is they use the wrong kind of classification hammer. They usually just use whatever they get their hands on. So very commonly, this is one of them that's an older style hammer, and it's a chisel on one side, and it's a strike hammer that's heavy, about 23 ounces or 20 ounces on normal pass. It's designed to work with brick, rock, masonry work, and stuff like that. It's not a nail hammer, and I'll explain why. There is no slit in the chisel strike because it's designed to strike hard, and as you can see, I've done that with this. I've broken concrete up with this particular hammer because it has that spike. And unlike striking concrete with a sludge hammer, this is a 3-pounder, the angle aspect of the strike hammer, the back part of the strike hammer, when it strikes the actual goal, it's breaking it by fracturing it using linear nature strikes. Now, a sludge hammer is also misunderstood. A lot of people think it's to drive stuff. No. What it's designed to use is physics. It's used to take the aspect of the head surface area, keep it narrow, because look how big it is in the middle, look how narrow it is in the front. And it's for the strike ratio, if you see how my finger is, to bring all of that weight into a single impact area to drive a chisel or a maul. A maul is something used to split rock or to split wood. And it can also be used to crack concrete, of course, and heavier rocks. But you spend a lot of energy, unlike using this hammer, for doing things like that, because you can literally just chip concrete away. It's not as structured as, let's say, quartz or different types of shale rocks and stuff like that. But this also works very well on shale rock. So these are definitely outdoor, yard-like utility tools that which you'd use outside. Landscaping, restructuring, breaking away old concrete, and so on and so on. Now, the next one to talk about is truly a very good common household style hammer. And it's called a claw hammer. And as you can see on the back, it's got a claw. It's got a split down the middle. And this can act as a pry bar, as it literally can use the leveraging effect. If you all remember your classes way back when about leveraging levers and angles and aspects, this allows you to do that. It also allows you to use the leveraging effect to remove nails from, and even screws. If you have got the strength for it, you can pull them out by just simply snagging the nail and twisting it outwards away from the base of the curvature of the hammer. Now, if you notice here on the front, though, this piece is not necessarily like the same as with the strike hammer, where you've got linear direct right angles on the head. This one is circular. This is designed to strike a nail. all types of nails, which all have different kind of requirements. But the design of it is to allow you to be able to strike the nail center mass, right dead center, to deliver an 18 to 23 ounce strike. And the secret about hammering a nail in is you have to look at the head of the nail as you're prospecting the nature of raising and striking the nail. And you always want to strike by pivoting your hand, not by going, don't do this. That's not going to work. You see how rigid the arm and the forearm and the wrist and the elbow is? Instead, you want to basically control your strikes by pivoting that wrist back and forth until your nail is in place. As you get better at it, you'll be able to pull back and strike to add additional strength to the strike, and you can usually put a nail in within 2 to 3 strikes. Beginners, don't be surprised if it takes you 6 or 7 strikes to get the nail in. As long as you're hitting the head of that nail, I don't care how long it takes. It's the people who don't focus on the nail that actually get injured, strike their thumbs, and so on. The other common mistake made with this particular hammer, which is not usually done with others, is people using their fingers. When you're putting a nail into its base, gently tap, 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 like that. Don't pull back and strike hard. You do run the risk of hurting your fingers. So it's just a matter of how to work with delicacy. Now, sticking with the nails and small nails and big nails and everything in between, all the way down to tacks, you have what something looks like this. So if you look here, you have what's called an incline style grasp, which will allow you to drop this onto a small, thin nail, slide it back, and just pop it right out. Also, if you notice, it also has the square linear nature of the strike hammer. See that? But also, if you look very carefully, you'll see a centering, a circular pattern in the middle. So it seems like, oh, I could just strike this like a strike hammer. No, you don't. What you want to do with this is you will be putting your tack on this end. And why is that? Well, look at it. You see it? This end here is magnetized. So when you put your tack on this side, it sticks. So what you do is you take your tack, you put it here, and then you'll see the tack stays on the tip of the hammer, and you tap it into your striking area. This allows you to place the tack exactly where you want it. And remember, you have to use your wrist to do this. You don't do this. This is not the hammer for that. It is designed specifically for finite work. So you basically put the tack on there, you go, boom, that's where I want it. You flip the hammer around to the linear front, and you finish tacking the hammer in. It's a narrow head, so it doesn't destroy the material that you're using the tack on. Common materials are fabrics, naga hide, leather, and so on. And some tacks can be fairly large, decorative in nature. So it's all about learning to use the hammer correctly. Next, we have what's called metal contact and material surface contact hammers. What do I mean? Well, these are what we call metal contact surface style hammers. These are gentle hammers that strike using a softer surface than that of the metals or plastics you might be working with, because sometimes you need a hammer, see here, to strike down plastics, small form aluminum, blemishable metals that don't like being hit by a piece of metal that's more dense. That's the secret sauce between these. Now, as you can see, this is a rubber mallet, and it is designed to strike surfaces so that it doesn't blemish the metals. If I had used this, that is much harder. And the secret sauce about materials is this. You never want to strike it with anything that has a higher density, atomic mass-wise, than the material itself. So, for instance, if you have pewter or an alternate metal or brass, you don't want to strike it with a steel hammer. Any steel hammer. Most of the people make the mistake of using something still steel but very light and simple so that they don't want to blemish anything, and they end up scratching it. The reason why is because the steel is harder. It's just like glass doesn't give, but if you take a diamond to it, it cuts it right up. So the secret sauce about these particular style hammers is that their heads can come off. as I showed here earlier. And you'll have different kinds of heads designed for different kinds of soft material strikes. Now, there's another kind of hammer like this hammer itself that is also a mallet, not to be confused with a hammer, and that is called a strike mallet, or basically a plastic style or rubberized mallet striker. It's designed to strike something really hard, but with such a soft surface that all it does is it creates a loosening effect. So this is my guy. I would use it to help loosen up a rotary, a disc that is on a brake disc. Sometimes they get rusted. So you take this guy and you strike at the center way to break up the rust, but nothing gets damaged. Now, if we look at this even more closely, you also have what's called rare metals strike hammers, as in this guy right here. This is a much more delicate hammer, and I use this hammer in computer industry stuff because when I'm striking it carefully, I have, as you can see here, a brass head. Brass head is really good about striking aluminum and many of the softer metals because it's even softer than the metals themselves. So I can strike them and I'm not going to run the risk of doing damage. Now I have here on this end an even softer, very pliable plastic head, but it's firm, but it's just not going to damage anything. You're going to damage this before you damage your surface area. And these hammers basically are designed in such a way so that it's really for the finite detailed work, like you're going to work on a watch band, or you want to tap in small dowel pins into a plastic frame, or you might even use this to tack together different 3D printed objects that have very sensitive snap-in points, and this is a great tool for that. It won't blemish the plastic because it's plastic itself. The only thing that it can blemish is something that is softer than the plastic's integrity. So, with that being the case, there are other types of hammers also out there that exist that aren't what we call hammers, but they follow the same strategy of what we call a lever action type strike. We have the hatchet. The hatchet is basically a small style axe with a linear head on the back of it, designed to also act as a striking surface if necessary or when needed. It's commonly used for working with branches, lawn care, and things like that. Also used for splitting small branches and so on. The next step would be an axe, a single-sided axe. It also is exactly the same as a hatchet, but has a heavier head, has a more finite blade on it on one side and a bigger linear head on the other. Designed to work with mauls as a hammer on the linear head side, you strike the maul that's been put in center on a log, and you can split that log wide open. Meanwhile, you can take the other end, which is a cutting blade, and you can use the cutting blade to strike the areas to weaken the wood that you're cutting, so that way you can get the wood to break up to the size that you want. The next hammer-like device, which is actually still an axe, is the double-bladed axe. Now, the double-bladed axe is my personal favorite because you can strike, rotate, strike, rotate, strike, rotate, or you can strike one side and then rotate it and strike before you have to sharpen the axe again. But it is a true cutting axe. You would never use this to strike anything just to strike it. You would only use it on wood, specifically to down trees or to chop logs clean and clear, completely through, so that you can set the logs aside for splitting. The next hammer-like axe configuration is known as the maul, which is basically a maul axe. It is a big head axe. It looks like a sledgehammer on one side, which is twice the size of this one, and then it's got a very fat and very thick-looking blade on the other side. That is used to strike and wedge, and because it's got that big giant head, you can wedge it into a log that you want to split open, and you take another hammer and you just drive that wedge right on through until it splits the log. Rinse and repeat. It is very intensive, by the way, to work with a maul axe, but you also find out that there are other family members related to the hammer and the axe family, and that is known as mattocks, and also what we call a pickaxe. And a pickaxe is technically is kind of like, this strike hammer. It has an edge on one side, it has an edge on the other side too, but it's heavy. And it's designed to reach back and strike material to loosen it up at depth. And these are usually very long, about 12 inches on each side. So with that being the case, the pickaxe, when it strikes, is basically a hammer. So now the mattock is different. The mattock it has a horizontal and a vertical blade, but it's very heavy. It's actually really heavy. And what you do is you have what looks like a small wedge-like blade on the front, and that's the mattock blade on the front. And then you have a horizontal blade that's like a hoe, and that is also designed to be driven into the ground at weight level to fight the resistance of the ground as you pick away at the dirt that you're trying to hit. And these are digging tools in this case, but most of the time the pickaxe and the mattock are digging tools used to dig fairly deep, fairly quickly. At which point, once you've loosened it up enough, you bring in your shovel and start excavating the location so that you can get in there and dig your hole. So with that being the case, this is the introduction to the hammer and all the different really cool kinds of hammers out there. There are other hammers, there's roofing hammers, and other kinds that exist out there that are designed to, like for instance, there's one hammer out there that has a pivoting claw head that can allow you to use it on a more crowbar-like kind of way and strike the hammerhead to drive it underneath the surface area to better ply it up. And the roofing axe, which is a kind of like a flathead hammer, square head, with an axe, a minor axe blade on the other side, designed to allow you to scoop the scaling of the roofing shingles that you're trying to remove and to peel those off and put new shingles in. Its striking aspect is a little different than most hammers that exist, but nevertheless it does a pretty good job and is very much well tooled for replacing roofs. Well, with that said, there's also one more hammer to bring up, and that is what is known as a ball peen hammer. Now, ball peen hammers are used for shaping, strike shaping, impact shaping, and so on. You'll also find variations of the same ball peen hammer used to restructuring like automotive surfaces of a car that has been stuck or dented or pushed in. They can use a ball peen hammer to get in there and pound it back out to shape. The neat thing about a ball peen hammer, unlike all of these hammers, is its surface area is just a tiny surface of the hammer. It has a round head on it. So when you strike it, it's just a tiny little place on the metal that you're striking. And what that does is it tries to prevent deformation on the metal itself. Ball peen hammers are mostly used in metal smithing, auto repair industries, people who are really good at resurfacing platform environments, to restore metals to the way they were. They use that with a combination of what we call a maul head and a ball peen hammer. A maul head is just basically a piece of metal that's flat and it's got a rubber surface on it so it won't scar like paint and so on, while the ball peen hammer is underneath the surface, pinging it out and flattening that up again. But with that being said, this is Brad Dyke. I hope this fix-it-yourself video introduction to tools is working for you, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Hey, we've got more tools coming, and I'll touch base on some other things that are very common in household fixing, that which you can take the time to be able to learn to do it yourself and save some money. Well, God bless, and you guys have a great week. Take care.